Thank you for continuing to watch here as we track Hurricane Ida. We just got the 5 a.m. update. We're getting hourly updates now, and the hurricane continues to grow stronger. It is a 145 mile per hour sustained storm now. That is a Category 4, and it's only 80 miles south of Grand Isle. So time has run out in Grand Isle, and tropical storm hurricane conditions will continue to move on in through the rest of the morning and get there by around lunchtime. There's the track. Look at this number, though. This is the number that's just shocking. I mean, it's all shocking, but sustained winds 145, gusting to 165. That could go up to around 170 miles per hour. That type of wind will destroy any structure. And look at the northwest movement. It hasn't slowed down. It's still moving at its constant rate, which has been about 15 miles per hour, which has been the case for the past about 24 hours. So you can see there that red line I've drawn on here is the path of this thing, and we are extremely concerned, and we're not being dramatic here, folks. This is a Category 4. This is a strong Category 4 storm that's going to be impacting parts of southeast Louisiana. The current track of it does take it straight up through Houma and Thibodaux. Earlier, it was more along LA1 here. It shifted a little bit, but these minor shifts are expected. This could wobble back this way a little bit. It could wobble this way, and it could wobble back and forth all the way up until landfall. So the key message here is that the bayou parishes, Terrebonne, Lafourche, especially lower Terrebonne, lower Lafourche, lower Jefferson, Grand Isle, and even Plaquemines, with this current track and forecast, are going to get absolutely hammered by a strong Category 4 storm with winds 145 miles an hour. That could go up even more. Now, a lot of people have been wondering, is this going to be a Cat 5? A Category 5 would be 157 miles an hour, so it has about 10 more miles an hour to go there. No guarantee it does it, but any way you look at it, this is going to be a devastating storm for areas. Pressure is 946. That's what we'll be watching. When pressure levels off, we'll probably see the intensity and the winds level off. But anyway, it is going to be moving on in. So we've got showers, outer bands moving on through the area. These will produce some gusty 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. We're starting to get in our tropical storm conditions down along the coast. Hurricane conditions will start very soon down there along the coast as well. So Ida, it is intensifying, and here's the latest track. There it is, moving up to the north, making its turn. It'll be near Baton Rouge by tonight. We've been showing you the radar here, and we've been tracking just how big that eye is. And it's not a giant eye. And let me erase this here because I want to do this. I haven't done it in about an hour. The eye itself is in between about 20 and 30 miles in diameter. It's actually about 20 miles. It looks like it maybe shrunk just a little. So overall, the eye's not giant, but the worst part of the hurricane is going to be around that eye wall, especially on this side. This is where we're clocking those 165 mile per hour wind gusts are going to be right there on the eastern side of that eye wall. Now, showing you the track here, let me time it out for you, and when you can see the worst conditions moving on into your area. The track of this thing really has not shifted over the past 2 or 3 days, really. There they have it making landfall. Notice as they have it at 1:45 this afternoon. So it'll be interesting to see, does it continue to intensify up until landfall around lunchtime? We'll say around noon. Or does it kind of cap off or try to weaken some as it gets over this continental shelf? Either way, it looks like it's going to be a strong Category 4 at landfall. We're just going to have to watch it and see what it ends up doing. Then it makes the turn, around midnight to noon, or around midnight, just after midnight. It's near Baton Rouge, probably still as a Category 1 storm, so it's going to take it about 12 hours to go from a 4 to a 1. That means it will be a hurricane over pretty much all of southeast Louisiana as we go through this afternoon, and we will be dealing with the worst of it through the afternoon hours for inland areas. The coast will be dealing with the worst of it this morning and around lunchtime, and it's not going to stop. It's going to linger all the way into this evening, into parts of tonight. So to give you an idea on some of the other impacts and the timing of when the worst could be moving in, let's time it out for you. That's 8 a.m., the worst of it heading towards our coast. By 10 to 11 o'clock, there's the eye wall moving into the coastal areas. Winds start to really pick up in Houma, Thibodaux, and the New Orleans area about lunchtime. Could start to see some gusts 70, 80, 90, 100 plus miles an hour. South of the lake, closer to lunchtime, and then this will continue to just spread over the area as we go through the afternoon hours with wind gusts. Look at all these 100 plus mile per hour wind gusts, 127, 130, 125, up to nearly the 80s and 90s in New Orleans, and that will probably only get higher. The big question right now is the eye wall, the eye, where does it go? The closer you are to this eye and this part of the eye wall, eastern part, that's where the worst part of the hurricane is going to be with regard to wind. If that eye wall stays just to the west of New Orleans, maybe we don't get the 110 mile per hour winds, but we're going to get probably 80 to 90. So that'll be the big question. But really, if you are in New Orleans to the west, there's a pretty good shot you see winds over 110, 120 later on through the afternoon and into the evening. This is at 6, 7 o'clock later today. The eye is just there in between Houma and Baton Rouge, still gusting over 100 in parts of the river parishes by sunset, and then that's when it will really start to get bad on the North Shore. The North Shore will really start to see winds pick up closer to sunset and going into the midnight hour. This is at midnight to paint the picture. We're going to be dealing with this all day long and even into tonight. We will start to see wind gusts over 70 to 80 to 90 miles an hour up in parts of the North Shore. Notice in Mississippi, not as bad, maybe some wind gusts to 60 to 70 to 80, but not into the 100 area. And then this is waking up Monday morning. About 7 o'clock on Monday, Ida is lifting up north of Macomb. We're getting some breaks in the heaviest rain, but we've still got strong winds of 60 to 50 to 70 miles per hour. So it may not be until Monday afternoon before winds are below tropical storm force. That's when it's safe to get out and do stuff or be on bridges and things like that. You don't be driving on any bridges when winds are this strong. Now, something else we need to talk about here. A Category 4 storm like this, every single threat is a big threat for someone. The surge values have gone up here. We've bumped them up to 12 to 16 feet as you go down into Lower Jefferson, Lower Lafourche, and on the west bank of Plaquemines. This will be funneling up into Jefferson Parish here. Think of Jean Lafitte and Lafitte down here. Could see significant surge of up to 16 feet. Up into St. Charles Parish on this side of the river towards Luling and Booty. That water will be coming up. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Thibodaux, Houma will be on that dividing line of the track. We're thinking 8 to 12 feet now for Terrebonne Parish. But if that track shifts a little bit this way, we could see more of a 16-foot surge for Houma and up into Terrebonne Parish. It just depends on that track. 8 to 12 feet, this is a little bit higher for the east bank of Plaquemines and up into St. Bernard. Think Wyclowski, Hopedale, and Shell Beach. Also 8 to 12 feet for areas as you get into right outside Lake Pontchartrain. We're talking outside the levee protection system in New Orleans, out in eastern New Orleans. Orleans Parish, excuse me. And then in the lake, 5 to 8 feet. We bumped that up just a little bit. 4 to 6 feet in Lake Maurepas, and then 4 to 7 feet for Harrison County. Still going with 8 to 12 feet for our friends over in Hancock County, up into Bay St. Louis, and especially up into the shoreline area and up into the Jordan River, all the way past I-10. Could see some inundation come on up. So storm surge. This is devastating storm surge. You couple that with wind gusts 160, 170 miles an hour, and that's absolutely catastrophic damage for areas down there along the coast. This is also going to be a big deal. Our rain chances and our rain totals, we're growing more confident that this could be a big flooding event as well. And I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, we're dealing with surge, wind, and flooding potential? Yes. 15 inches of rainfall possible. Certainly for areas just towards the east of that eye. I mean, you're talking about the eye going from here to here, taking a whole, afternoon, 12 hours to do it. So it's possible. It rains pretty much all afternoon. It could be very heavy, and that's why our 15 inches is certainly reasonable. Now, that, of course, in New Orleans would lead to flooding with regard to inside the levees. I think what's going to happen here, we're not really concerned with the surge coming inside the levees in New Orleans, but the flooding potential from the heavy rainfall. So at times, especially if you stay and you look out your door and you see water coming up in the roads, it's more than likely thanks to rainfall and the pumps trying to keep up with it. So that's a major concern with flooding across the city. If your car's here, park it high. 10 inches of rainfall seems like a very good bet for a lot of areas, but it does seem like 15 inches is in the realm of possibilities, and we could see areas that pick up over 15 inches of rainfall. That's a big concern. The other problem is we got to talk about the North Shore rivers here, and we're not going to have a great idea on what they're going to do until we get and see where that rain is actually falling. But a lot of these rivers are in a flood warning now, and if you do live along one of the rivers on the North Shore, you've got to plan for worst case scenario here in these types of situations. You're talking maybe 10 to 15 inches of rain added on to 5 to 8 inches or 5 to 8 feet of storm surge rise in the lake. That's not going to allow those rivers to drain into Lake Pontchartrain. So you will see a prolonged period of flooding along those rivers. And then, of course, the wind threat. This is what we typically aren't extremely concerned with wind with systems, but when you start getting into major hurricanes, Cat 4s, this is going to be a big deal. Wind gusts near the coast and right near that eastern eye wall are going to be about over 160 near the center of that storm. And then it's very possible a lot of areas in this White Sea at least 110-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Eric?
And Peyton, for people who are just joining us now, you went to bed, it was a Category 2, we get up, it's a Category 4. Is this track almost in stone now? Is there anything that could drive it farther to the west or bring it closer to the east to us?
Wobbles. And speaking of
besides
wobbles
wobbles can mean...
Yeah, right. No, I mean, if anything, I mean, the track is coming to southeast Louisiana, and it's just where does it make landfall? Terrebonne Parish or Plaquemines? That's still a possibility. Anywhere between there is still a possibility of landfall, but it's coming on in here. And do you notice this, Eric? Do you see it kind of going to the east of this? This is the forecast line. So what does that mean? Does that mean it continues to track more like this? Maybe it comes closer and makes landfall right in Grand Isle, and Plaquemines Parish takes the brunt of it. That would not be good for New Orleans. That would put that eastern eye wall right over the city this afternoon. It's also possible this wobbles this way and then it decides to do this and it comes up towards Terrebonne. But the track at this point, it's coming here.
Yeah, and the fact that this is happening on the 16th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina is not lost to anybody. I mean, a storm like this, a Category 4, Hurricane Katrina was a Category 5, but it hit as a Category 3.
Yeah.
Anyway, this could weaken when it comes ashore?
It is possible. You know, the trends have not been weakening at all. That radar just went out. The trends have not been weakening at all. Now, it is possible it kind of caps off, and we'll see what it does, but right now there's no indication that it is going to weaken. The wind shear is not terribly high, and it's just so organized. I mean, that is so impressive to see as a hurricane. The structure of it is just a classic, devastating, you know, Category 4 hurricane.
Yeah. And depending on where it does make landfall finally, if it's a real marshy area, that's not going to weaken this storm any.
You know, it's not. This is going to take its time. I was showing you it's going to make landfall, we'll say here about noon today, and then by midnight it's going to be by Baton Rouge. So within that scale, traveling from the coast to Baton Rouge, it's going to be going from about a 4 to a 1. So it's not going to, it'll weaken, but it's going to take all day to go from a 4 to a 3. It'll probably stay a 2 and a 1 much longer. It'll probably go from a 4 to a 3 pretty quickly.